Hello, you're watching news from Kazakhstan. It is Wednesday, September 19th, and I'm Nurbek Savitakhunov. Mother of one of the suspected Atarau terrorists, Bakhila Otarbayeva, is appealing to the president of Kazakhstan for help. The death of her 21-year-old son, Yelaman, was recently confirmed. He was killed during the special operation in the town of Kulsari on September 12th.
Otarbayeva's other two sons were arrested as well. One of them, Bakhit Otarbayev, lived in the apartment raided by the special forces during the anti-terrorism operation. The second young man lived in Zhanaozen. In total, the woman has 10 children. All of them are active Muslim practitioners, but Otarbayeva claims that they have nothing to do with radical Islam. I only need justice. Mr. Nazarbayev, please help. I have nowhere else to turn to. I only need justice.
Relatives of those who died in Kulsari on September 12th after the special operation to eliminate terrorists are saying their children were unarmed and innocent. In the course of the raid, 5 suspected terrorists were killed, while the 6th suspect, Alziar Saparov, is in serious conditions in the Atarau Regional Hospital. More details next.
This is the exact street in Kulsari village where on September 12th, a special operation aimed at eliminating suspected terrorists took place. Omirzak Jakupov lives in the house opposite to where the suspects were hiding that day. When snipers started taking positions on the roof of his house, the thought that they would shoot his nephew Yelaman Otarbayev never crossed Omirzak's mind. The police used tear gas and shot almost all suspects who ran out to balcony and stairs. Only one man was left alive. Omirzak claims that security forces were the only ones to open fire. I think all this anti-terrorism is related to big politics, but these people did not open fire. I am not sure, but some say that special unit from Astana could have stormed the house and taken these men outside. In a situation like that, if I were a terrorist, I would blow myself up, but no one did so. Special forces showed us some briefcase, but it was just for show. There was no blast. 17-year-old Bakbirbian Zholdukbayev is now the head of the family. His oldest brother Yelaman Otarbayev was killed during the special operation on September 12th, and immediately after the incident, his 2 elder brothers were arrested with charges of terrorism. At the cemetery, there are 2 new graves of Zhauzakov brothers shot by the police in Kulsari, and a third one is prepared for Yelaman Otarbayev. However, his family could not pay for the autopsy of his body, so it was taken to Atarau. As far as I know, they asked about $105 for his autopsy. We could not collect so much at the moment. I believe they asked $200 for 2. The Zhanuzakov and Otarbayev families live in the same residential block. Sabir and Daoulet, who were killed during the operation, grew up together with Yelaman and were at the rented apartment on September 12th when their 3 friends came to visit them from Atarau. Family members believe their kids simply were in the wrong place at the wrong time, but they absolutely refused to say it on camera. Can you tell these reporters that your children were innocent? How do you know that? It is all your fault. They followed you. They were blue collars. Why did you recruit them? The Zhanuzakov brothers and Yelaman Otarbayev graduated from Zhazukbayev School number 16. Teachers described all 3 as nice and diligent students who were just like other ordinary pupils. 2 years after the graduation, the teacher of Sabir Zhanuzakov met with her former class. About 3 or 4 years ago, I noticed that they started growing beards. Since Sabir graduated a while ago, I did not know what he's been up to. But I saw him once in the bus, and he already had a beard and was in short pants. He did not even say hello to me. There is only one mosque in Kulsari. It is state-run and subordinate to the Muslim spiritual administration. Imam Arman Isaev says that the mosque is visited by up to 1,000 worshippers, and about 30% of them are followers of Salafist ideology. Also, there are a great number of followers of Takfirism in town. They come here to pray and then they leave, but they are not allowed to preach, organize people in groups, and oversee them here. They are ordinary people who come to pray, but others see them at the mosque and automatically think the mosque turns them into who they are. I want to say that these men were brought up by underground organizations and the internet. Residents of Kulsari village admit that there are about as many followers of Salafis and even neo-Kharajit ideologies as ordinary Muslims in the settlement. The opinion on the matter is quite different. Well, they don't really talk to people, they just say hello and that is it. I do not know why is that. Maybe because they're not allowed to. The Wahhabists should be segregated from society, and they should be kicked out from the educational institutions. Unlike the president of Uzbekistan, our president made a worse decision. They should have been gathered to take some collective measure against them. That would keep them scared. They should have educated the youth to differentiate good and bad Muslim schools from each other.
Чтобы учили молодежь.
Recently, 3 out of 5 of those killed during the special operation on September 12 were buried in Kusari. When the remaining 2 will be buried is yet unknown.
Independent journalist Sergei Dovanov does not believe there are big extremist formations in Kazakhstan. The expert assumes the latest incidents are single demonstrations of social discontent. However, if due work is not conducted by the enforcement agencies, the situation may change in the near future.
Duvanov identified several reasons for the emergence of extremists in the state. The social and economic factor is reflected in desperate citizens' actions against law enforcement agencies. It is also related with the emergence of uncontrolled religious groups at the onset of independence. According to the expert, local prisons also play a role in this issue. Duvanov even gives an example of the situation he witnessed himself during his imprisonment at the Zarechny facility in the Almaty region. During my time in prison, a member of Hizbut Tahrir was also placed there, and a year later, about 20-25 people started praying together with him. These men quit smoking, drinking, and drugs. Basically, these crooks were turned into faithful Muslims. I believe they will be among those who will keep promoting these ideas after their release. It is similar to a snowball effect.
The country's national security is in need of more qualified personnel, says former National Security Committee staff officer Vladimir Komarov in an interview with Guljan.org. In his words, current law enforcement agency employees are not concerned about the outcome of investigations, for which they receive somewhat of a radical feedback. The expert also spoke about the latest incidents, the Arkan-Kirgen border outpost tragedy, the December 16 events in Zhanaozen, and the massacre in Ilya Alatau National Park. Vladimir Komarov assumes the series of events was aimed at the removal of the president's close aide, NSC head Nurtai Abukayev.
I believe someone urgently needed to show this barrier, to destroy this protection. When the provocation in Zhanaozen failed, there was a need for other actions like at Arkan-Kirgen and Ilya Alatau National Park, which I believe are also attempts to destroy Nurtai Abukayev and his influence. However, even these attempts have failed as well.
Respublika, on the other hand, is devoting its virtual pages to the chief of presidential administration, Aslan Musin. Citing its own sources, the publication draws conclusions as to why he remains in his post. As sources note, Musin entered into a political alliance with Defense Minister Adilbek Jaksalikov and is now essentially in control of 2 departments, the Interior and Defense Ministries. The publication notes that Nazarbayev is simply wary of reshuffling in light of unforeseen consequences.
There are a lot of Musin's protégés within security agencies, local administrations of Western regions, or national company Kazmunay Gaz. In the worst-case scenario, all of them will cause trouble for the authorities of the country, for instance by leaking delicate information on the embezzlement of national funds by organizing the second Zhanaozen.
In other news, an Uralsk man suspected of promoting extremism was sentenced to 5 years in prison. The 42-year-old was charged under the article of terrorism to be served in a penal colony.
According to the West Kazakhstan Regional Court, the man was engaged in distribution of extremist literature calling for holy war, extremism, and terrorism. As was noted by Interfax news agency, the defendant, whose name has not been disclosed, admitted his guilt. Previously, 8 people were sentenced to 6 to 9 years in prison in Uralsk on charges of terrorism.
International peacekeeping exercises titled Steppe Eagle 2012 were held at the Ili base in Almaty region on Monday. Soldiers from the United States, the United Kingdom, France, Germany, and other countries demonstrated their skills.
It feels like a real-life situation. The supposed offenders are hiding in the house while the Kazbrig Peacekeepers unit is trying to eliminate them. All possible escape ways are blocked, and gang members are now trying to use hand grenades, but peacekeepers overpower them and disarm the criminals. As a result of this special operation, only 1 soldier is wounded and is taken away via helicopter after receiving first aid. Compared to the previous year, your soldiers are up to their level. They performed all the tasks independently. I barely assisted them at all, and this is encouraging. As you witnessed, everything worked in sync during this operation. Infantry, aviation, and transport. Everything was under control, and the communication worked well. This time the enemy is attacking a checkpoint patrolled by Kazakh peacekeepers. Bandits are attacking from the hills and are trying to strike from the back, but the attempt is immediately stalled and countered. After a short offensive with the use of armored vehicles, the criminals are neutralized yet again. American exercise coach Colonel John Rogers praised the work of Kazakh colleagues.
We have been very fortunate to spend time in the field with the Kazakhs.
Нам повезло. В этот раз мы провели очень много времени в полевых условиях с казахстанским контингентом,
And the Tajiks.
Также с таджикским контингентом
And various other countries.
И многими другими странами.
And my impression is that they are doing very, very well.
И то, что касается совместимости, мое впечатление, что совместимость у нас на достаточно высоком уровне.
We have worked together well. It's been a very positive experience.
Following field exercises, reporters were shown how first aid is provided to the wounded. The setting was quite convincing indeed, complete with darkness, moans of the wounded men, and hospital protected at the perimeter. The special robotic dolls are used as stand-ins for real soldiers. If first aid is applied incorrectly, the doll stops breathing, indicating the failure to save life. The Steppe Eagle exercise is conducted annually, and observers note how Kazakh military is improving every year. Last time, Kazakh peacekeepers seemed vulnerable when the attack using the weapons of mass destruction was imitated, and it was evident that better first aid skills are required. This time, everything went without a hitch. Now it is time to improve the soldiers' knowledge of foreign languages. Military authorities say that by the next exercise, the personnel will perform even better.
The Atarau court finished examining the prosecution's material evidence in the case of inciting social hatred. The court devoted several days to the task. The prosecution attempted to prove Vladimir Kozlov's, Serik Sapargali's, and Akshanat Aminov's involvement in plotting a coup by creating an organized criminal group. However, all video and audio materials fail to prove the defendant's guilt, say attorneys. Moreover, according to recordings of Kozlov's telephone conversations with oil workers or with his colleagues via Skype, the politician constantly talks about the exclusivity of legitimate methods of conflict resolution.
The prosecution requested Judge Mirzabekov to go through the testimonies of previously convicted Roza Tulitaeva and Janar Saktaganova. The latter is a resident of Zhanaozen and was Ayzhangul Amirova's assistant. The former active supporters of oil workers, whose testimonies look as a carbon copies of each other, now both condemned Vladimir Kozlov and his associates, saying that Alga Party used them and never provided any legal assistance. Roza Tulitaeva also repeated this testimony almost word for word, saying that Kozlov, Atabayev and Mamai used the labor conflict to advance their own political goals. The opposition allegedly incited workers to oppose the authorities, and striking oilmen were even forced to watch K+ against their will. Alexei Plugov requested the judge to include interview of Talgat Saktaganov in the case materials, but Mirzabekov again declined the petition. Previously, Saktaganov told reporters about his visit to Poland and its usefulness. The attorney explains that the interview contradicts Saktaganov's testimonies in court, where he said he doesn't actually know why exactly he visited Europe. The prosecution objected since the interview has questionable sources, and the judge rejected the motion. When it comes to politics and opposition, the prosecution in our country isn't objective. They just receive instructions from the top to make sure people are jailed no matter what. The investigation will use any kind of evidence. That's exactly what has just happened.
The Leave Housing to the People movement has dealt a serious blow to the reputation of one of Kazakhstan's banks. Hearings in Nargul Kulmishova's case, who was forced to pay off her late sister's loans, were recently concluded.
Back in 2006, Nargul's sister Gulnara took a loan in Alliance Bank and tragically died 6 months later, leaving 2 young children behind. The bank charged Nargul to pay off the loan. Upon taking custody of her nephews, the woman appealed to Alliance Bank requesting to write off the debt. The bank, however, ignored the request. Only after the intervention of Leave Housing to the People movement, 3 years later, the court ordered the bank to cancel the debt. Nargul paid the price of her eldest nephew's life for these litigation proceedings. He committed suicide in the park of the first president in 2011. I personally witnessed Alliance Bank participating in a number of hearings, not willing to make any concessions and trying to force the loan on the minor, Gulnara's 17-year-old son, who just graduated from college in 2011. He was even denied in obtaining an official residential registration.
The Interregional Kazakh-Russian Cooperation Forum opened in Pavlodar. The first day of the event was held in the absence of presidents. Instead of Nursultan Nazarbayev and Vladimir Putin, the tone of the meeting was set by heads of various ministries, as well as representatives of business organizations.
The exhibition presenting initiatives in industrial cooperation was the first event in the forum. The Astana Ice Palace hosted the expo, which featured products from 26 regions of the country, as well as 2 foreign states, although most visitors here were Kazakh officials. The business forum got underway yesterday in Pavlodar, addressing international cooperation issues among businessmen, including the subject of clearing payments between Russia and Kazakhstan. According to Russian experts, the situation at the financial markets is not stable. Therefore, the time has come to stop using dollars and euros. Financial analysts believe that national currencies can be used instead, before the introduction of a much talked about common currency within the customs union. Perhaps this won't be a first step, but rather a small forward movement. But whatever it is, we are definitely going ahead. You are right, we already have customs unions and a single economic space. As the integration moves forward, it might take years or even decades, but one day, the issue of the common currency will be put on the agenda. It will be a reserve currency, and it does not have to be the only one.
9 waste management factories are to be constructed in Kazakhstan within the next 2 years, notes Environmental Protection Minister Nurlan Kaparov behind the scenes of the environmental seminar. The first such factory will be launched in Astana on October 10th.
There will be a grand opening of the plant. It was built using Spanish production methods. The plant will start operating a couple of months behind the original schedule, but I do not think it is a big problem. If I remember correctly, it will recycle 400,000 tons of waste a year, so it should satisfy the whole demand for recycling in Astana. The government has grand plans for the next 10 to 15 years. Waste recycling plants will be built in 41 major cities. The minister explained that the plant in Almaty that operated for only 3 years was shut down in 2010 due to issues encountered by its owner. Kaparov assured that the facility will relaunch its operation once all financial issues get resolved, although the plant's management repeatedly expresses doubts in such plans.
An underground casino under the guise of a pawn shop was uncovered in Astana by the financial police. The commercial organization enjoyed success among capital's residents, notwithstanding the fact that its enterprising owners kept it under strict secrecy.
Only regulars had access to the casino that was shut down by the police on September 17th. The owners took security seriously and installed surveillance cameras and security guards at the entrance. Gamblers even had to identify themselves via intercom to gain entry. Despite all this, the business flourished and clients were in abundance. The police were surprised to find even a retired old lady among the people detained at the casino. The adventurous babushka won a large sum of money the day before and decided to try her luck again when the policemen arrived. They removed slot machines, the roulette, and the logbooks, although the anti-corruption agency representative could not name the exact amount of confiscated money. Initially, we confiscated about $1,350 and during the inspection we found more. The expertise which will tell the exact sum has been scheduled, as there were several foreign currencies there.
And it is back to the roots for school children. The Education Ministry is planning to abolish the now familiar United National Test, announced Director of the National Center for Testing Kali Abdiev on Tuesday.
In the lobby of the Education Conference, Abdiev confirmed that by 2015, school graduates will have to pass 2 sets of tests again, school finals and university entrance exams. Kazakhstan is returning to the old system of knowledge assessment, but the apparent step back to the Soviet model has nothing to do with annual scandals occurring during the national testing. The main reason is the introduction of 12-year education and the transition from general to specialized education. It is expected that all schools will make a transition to specialized 12-year education. This will mean that different schools will have different finals. However, the university entrance tests will primarily need to meet the specific university requirements. Depending on the subjects, the facility will need to assess the knowledge for.
Moving on to the subject of underage mothers, the Kazakh Statistics Agency raised the alarm following the World Health Organization. The amount of pregnancies among 14 to 18-year-olds in the Republic is growing rapidly. According to data, every year around 10,000 young Kazakh teenage girls become mothers. What is the cause of this surge in early motherhood and how should the issue be addressed is in the next report.
19-year-old Sandugash is celebrating her son's 4th birthday. The girl had the baby when she was just in 9th grade. The young mother says at the time she had to quit school as the child's father, a teenager himself, refused to marry and wanted an abortion. Sandugash's parents did not support her either, but the girl decided to keep the baby anyway. She was afraid that after abortion she would never be able to have children again. Since then, Sandugash never doubted her decision. Of course it is difficult for me. I get a small welfare benefit from the state, but I think I did the right thing. There are many girls nowadays who cannot get married. I believe that having a child is happiness, and there is not a single thing I regret. Early marriages are frowned upon by society. The first advice young mothers-to-be are given is to get rid of the baby. Even the clergy do not particularly welcome early pregnancy. They say it is against Sharia, the moral code and religious law of Islam. Raising a child starts with the family. The Prophet said that bringing up a child is the most important thing that a father gives to his child. In Muslim families, parents need to teach values to kids and instill morals. Meanwhile, Astana's obstetricians and gynecologists go quite easy on the statistics of early pregnancies. They do not persuade young mothers-to-be to terminate pregnancies at once, as it is possible only in the case of complications. Doctors, however, concede that the delivery is usually difficult in such cases and claim that statistics agencies and WHO's data is wrong, and in fact early childbirth is not commonplace. Over my 7-year practice, there have been very few abortions. I suppose about 10, not more. But I have never condemned these mothers-to-be. It is their life and their decision. It should be noted that the president himself forecasts a real baby boom in Kazakhstan by 2016. However, experts say that the number of abortions will rise together with the improvement in demographic situation. Doctors have already raised their concerns about the issue. According to statistics, Kazakh women use medical termination of pregnancy 4 times as often as European. On top of that, it is just the official data, and teenage girls are not included in the list, as they cannot go to the doctor without their parents accompanying them. Thus, they often resort to unsafe abortions.
45 participants from different countries are ready to find out who will earn the title of Best Opera Singer. The 6th annual Bibigul Tuligenova Vocalist Contest was launched in the Republic. As it was noted at a press conference at Almaty on Monday, the task behind the competition is to nurture moral and aesthetic qualities within the youth.
True masters of opera will be judging contestants. The event director Guzel Telegenova says that Kazakhstan, unfortunately, doesn't have enough facilities for opera singers, and the only suitable stage these days is Abay Opera Theatre. Experts say the opera is one of the most expensive arts, and government support is required to promote it. Anyone who listens to it can see that even the beginner opera singers don't use a microphone, and their only instrument is piano. During the final round, they will have to sing with a symphony orchestra. Many of the young singers have never done it before.
And finally, the opening of the 8th International Eurasia Film Festival was held in Almaty. 11 feature films were presented at the competition. As always, viewers were able to see 16 motion pictures in 4 days. On Monday, experts shared their impressions from the first day of the festival and entered into long-term agreements. Here's our report from the festival.
Hakan Satayev's film Zhaozhrek Mingbala will be promoted for an Oscar nomination, revealed on Tuesday. Representatives of Kazakhstan's filmmaking industry at a press conference of the Eurasia 2012 Film Festival. They believe the film, out of 20 wide releases this year, is worthy of a Best Foreign Language Film nomination in every respect. But first they intend to test their luck with the Golden Globes.
I really do encourage that the producers, directors of this movie would send that movie to the Golden Globes for consideration. It's important that Kazakhstan, this is a very outstanding movie expressing the culture.
During the second day of the festival, the Russian Cinema Fund signed a memorandum with the organizers of Eurasia 2012. The parties intend to cooperate in supporting film production, promoting Kazakh movies in Russia, and vice versa, assuming responsibility for initiating national cinema weeks, sharing experience, and developing legal frameworks, as well as supporting sponsoring education programs. We are dissatisfied with the Soviet filmmaking school, which is still relevant in Russia. Unfortunately, the methods and techniques of teaching have not been developing ever since. Therefore, 2 years ago, during the State Filmmaking Conference, on behalf of independent producers, we suggested to begin adapting U.S. methodology. The memorandum provides for joint investment. Modern teaching methods and techniques require considerable financial investment, say Russian producers. The filmmakers count on the younger generation, hoping that they will be able to find common grounds and work productively. Anything starts at some point, and so we have to sign this memorandum that will determine the format of our relationship and will allow us to keep watching the way it develops. In any case, Kazakh-Russian movie relations have been developing long before the memorandum. More than a dozen films were made and released over the past 4 years with joint efforts, with one of the national TV companies currently developing a war project based on the biography of Kasim Kaysenov, the World War II Kazakh hero.
This is all we have time for now. Thank you for watching. See you tomorrow.